All right. Welcome back to Eyes Open Media. Prophet John here. Hope you guys are doing well. Okay, so we got a lot of people that are not understanding the four stocks. It's very simple, and I believe that the reason why people aren't don't understand the four stocks is because um, they're hearing the information from other people. Okay, and that's the problem, right? Because the four stocks are on Patreon for a reason, so you don't hear the information from other people. The four stocks were supposed to remain on Patreon for a reason, so you don't hear the information from other people. If other people didn't take the four stocks off of Patreon and tell other people misinformation, then there wouldn't be any misinformation. Because I've been clear on what the four stocks are and their role from day one. It's been the same verbiage for those that are on my Patreon and have been listening to my videos since the summer. It's been the same exact verbiage. Nothing has changed. The four stocks are going to go up in the crash. They are the stocks for the financial stock market crash, stock market reset, stock market going back to its true numbers, whatever you want to call it, because some people don't like to call it the reset. Some people don't like to call it a crash. Some people like to call it going back to their real numbers. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's just all the same thing. Okay, but that's what the four stocks were given to for about. That's what they were for, right? In the summer, the father told us to, or told me and Prophet Shirley to start, grabbing some of those four stocks. Now at that time there was three. I added one to make four. Okay, because this other one I found, and it was, it was going to do well as well, right? We prayed about it, and it was going to also do well. So it went from three stocks. I don't really like the number three because that's the cabal and the cult use that number. So I try to stay away from that number. But either way, you know what I mean. Um, well, they used that number, but it was a number that was from the heaven. They copied the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Let's keep it 100 or 1,000, right? They copied that number. On the third day, he rose again, right? So they took the number three and they made it into an evil number, even though that number was not evil. So they use it for evil, but that doesn't mean that we have to use it for evil because that's on the third day he rose again, right? So there you go. So they use that number three for evil, because Yeshua rose again on the third day. All right. But so I added one, and and it became four. And interesting enough, right after that, the father was telling Benny that watch 4 and 11. I got four. I got 11. And it was interesting because I had the four stocks, right? I added one to make it four, and I didn't know that Benny was going to be coming out with, hey, watch 4 and 11. And the father keeps telling me 4 and 11. Louise Vogel Sharp comes out with 1 2 4, right? 1 2 4 pattern, right? So the 1 2 4 time frame, right? So that's pretty interesting. But anyways, so the four stocks were for getting ready for the crash because the crash was supposed to happen in 2019, right? And it actually did behind the scenes, but they're propping up the market so much that you were not seeing it yet until they stop propping the markets, right? And even when they're propping the markets, we're still having red days because the everything else around it is crashing, right? So now we're having a problem with the bond market, the long term bonds, and the yield curve, inverted, and I think it inverted in August or September of 2019, and so the yield curve inverted. The bond market is looking like trash. Now we have all the other markets around. The European markets are not looking good. So Australian markets are coming down. Now you have the coronavirus, and the coronavirus is keeping people inside in the Eastern world. China, they have all this stuff going on over there. Um, Apple saying that shipments can't even they're not going to be able to make anything. Car dealerships can't even produce any cars because all their products come from China. So It's going to be a big, this is going to be a big global economic meltdown here because a lot of companies depend on China, and they're gonna be forced to, if this thing continues to spread or if a new virus comes out, then they're gonna need to start depending on their own manufacturing companies and stop depending on China. But so that's what's going on. But the four stocks were for the crash, and that was it. That's it. After the crash, we're not in the four stocks. We're out of the four stocks at the peak of the crash. I've been saying that since the summer. I don't know where people are getting any other information from, because if you're on my Patreon, you can go through all of my videos on Patreon. You're gonna hear the same thing. The four stocks are for the crash, and those who are in the four stocks with me will prosper during the crash, not before the crash, not after the crash, but during the crash. We're gonna try to sell at the peak of the crash. You can go through all my videos on Patreon, Currency 365. You'll hear the same thing when I'm talking about the four stocks. The four stocks are for the crash. I don't know why people went outside of that and started taking it and telling people the wrong information. So it's terrible. It's terrible what people do, man. Terrible. That's why it's only on Patreon, because I already knew that people would take the information and twist it and say, "Oh no, the four stocks are supposed to be going up right now with the Dow, and everything else, and the four stocks are down big. Four stocks are not even going up. The markets are up, 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 and the four stocks are down. What's going on?" Right? So I already knew that was going to happen. That's why I would try to prevent it by putting it on Patreon and let people do their research on the four stocks. But this is what's going on in the dinar land, and just in people in general, and these people want to be millionaires, by the way, right? These are the people that we're talking about, that are trying to be millionaires from the currency revaluation, okay, or cryptocurrencies, or the four stocks, or whatever it is, and they're out here taking the material, putting it out, and then putting out misinformation, wrong information, and then we have people, and then to make it worse, we have people giving out the wrong four stocks. Right, so you took from what was on Patreon for Patreon only, and then you're giving out the wrong stocks, and some of them were giving out cryptocurrencies instead of the stock. It's unbelievable. And then I even had one person try to make an excuse of why, make an excuse about giving out a cryptocurrency for the four stocks. Unbelievable. The four stocks are the four stocks. They're not a cryptocurrency, and then you can just make an excuse and say, "Well, this should be one of the four stocks." It's a crypto. Oh boy. This is what we're doing. When we're wrong, we don't even want to be wrong anymore. We want to just make up some bull crap. Like that's what liberals do. So and Republicans at times, but mostly that's liberalism, right? When liberals are wrong, they just make up more lies. Right? When liberals are caught in the wrong, they'll make up more lies. Right? And they'll basically turn it back on you and say, "No, I was only wrong because you did this to me." Right? They'll flip it on you like Oprah did on Gail. Gail still hasn't apologized to the Kobe Bryant family for what she did in that interview. Has not apologized. Yet Snoop Dogg is doing an apology tour right now. I think he's going to be on Jada Pinkett Smith's show, Red Pill thing. So Snoop Dogg is going on an apology tour, and while Gayle King has not even apologized yet to the Kobe Bryant family. All she said was that if you watch the cuts that CBS did, then I know how you feel. I would feel disgusted as well. But she never apologized to the Kobe Bryant family. Interesting enough, Vanessa, Kobe Bryant's wife, has not stood up for Kobe Bryant as well. She's literally ignored the whole thing. If your husband that's now dead is being dragged in the media about something he didn't do because he was He wasn't convicted. He was found not guilty by a jury, right? And then the woman comes out and says that I was lying. I just wanted the money, right? Because she quickly went to civil suit for 2 point something million. Your wife should at least make a statement and say and put the facts out there for your husband. But that hasn't happened yet. It's really weird and strange. But it is what it is. That's the life we live in. Anyways, I just wanted to clear it up with the four stocks. There should be nothing to clear up. Everybody that's on Patreon should know that the four stocks are for the crash. And that's it. That's what they're there for. They're there for the crash. Those that are in with me on the four stocks, because you did your research on them and you know that they're for the crash, then we're waiting patiently for the crash. The crash could happen in the next few weeks, or the crash could happen in 6 months, or the crash could happen after Donald Trump wins the election, like many people think is going to happen. Either way, the bubble is going to pop and the crash is going to happen under Donald Trump because he's the one that can bring the markets back up quickly. We don't want the crash to happen under anybody else. We want the crash to happen under Donald Trump because he's a financial expert. And God is going to give him instructions to bring the economy back up. That's why the crash needs to happen underneath him. And he's trying to prevent the crash from happening on the outside. It's already happened on the inside, but they don't want to tell us that. And so they keep printing and printing and printing. But at some point, the printing is just going to have to stop, right? Because if you keep printing, Bitcoin is going to go to 100,000. Cryptos are doing well because the Feds and the central bankers are just printing and printing and printing, and people and is removing confidence in the financial markets. So and into the and it is removing confidence into the dollar or the currencies around the world. Now the dollar is still very strong on the index, right? But overall, money is moving into the cryptos because of the printing, infinite printing of the central banks. All right, so that's why, and also the coronavirus has something to do with that, but and also the Middle East tension has something to do with that as well. But if we continue to print and print and print and print, money's going to continue to move into gold, silver, and the cryptos. All right. So, and then the bond markets are going to continue to get bad, and all of the yield stuff and all the stuff. Everything is looking bad. All the numbers are looking bad, and the future numbers are going to look even worse because of the coronavirus. People, you know what I mean? So if you think it's worse now, if you think things are turning bad right now, imagine what the first quarter earnings are going to look like. Imagine what the fourth quarter earnings are going to look like with the coronavirus going crazy. Imagine what the second quarter earnings are going to look like. You know what I mean? So the earnings are going to look terrible for Apple, terrible for many of these car companies and stuff. The first quarter earnings are going to be disastrous because many of them can't even do production. Many of the places, stores companies are shut down because they can't get the production and the products that they need from China. So you better be ready. Peace out. God bless. That's why we have the four stocks, and they're for the crash, nothing else. All right. So here's Twisted. I'm not Twisted Christian, but here is Footforward. Okay, I'm gonna insert a Footforward's video about Reddcoin, and I guess he was talking about Reddcoin and why he likes Reddcoin. Peace out, God bless, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Eyes open.
Hey everyone, my name is Matthew. I am also known as Footforward in the Dinar community, which is probably likely where somebody is sending you this video from. And I want to share really quickly why I am high on Reddcoin, especially for something after the dinar revalues. To start, though, I am not a financial expert. This is not financial advice. This is my opinion on, well, some events that transpired, but I think it'll make sense to you guys. Although you shouldn't be watching this video. I missed out on Bitcoin. I think I'm not the only one. I was told really early on, I don't remember the year, but my best friend growing up called me. And Mark, if you're watching this, I'm really sorry I didn't listen. Bitcoin was in its infancy, and I laughed at my best friend growing up when he told me about it. because I thought there was no way this is ever going to catch on. Well, it did, obviously. So I had to repent for that. It was back in the summer of 2019, and I just told the Lord, I'm sorry I missed it. I repent for missing it, and I'm going to listen better next time. So, about 2 weeks after that, a woman that I don't know, well, I didn't know at that point, messages me randomly in a Facebook group that I'm in, and starts to tell me all about Reddcoin. I knew this was from God, but I had no clue how to get into it or anything. So I just prayed and asked God, I said, I need help getting into this, so please send me somebody. So 2 weeks later, I get this text message, and it's a number I don't know, and I text this guy, and I remember this because it was a Wednesday, so I was at prayer at church, and I texted this guy just seeing what he wanted, and he's like, is this the Matthew that does dinar videos? And I'm like, yeah, who's asking? Because a lot of times people go to track you down just not for good reasons. And it's interesting because I'm not easy to find. Like, my cell number isn't out there. So the fact that this guy, God clearly showed this guy where to connect with me. And so he starts telling me about a dream that he had. He said a week previous he had no idea what the dinar was. But he had a dream that these Arab guys were celebrating because they all become very wealthy. And he was very much aware in this dream that this other investment he was in hadn't happened yet, but he was really happy for these Arab guys. And so he talked to a couple friends of his who are in the dinar, who know me, who had followed my videos and stuff, and they told him it was about the dinar. Totally makes sense to me. And he started watching some of my videos. God told him to contact me, and it was really cool because he actually lives in Canada as well, so he could help me. But he's like, we hadn't talked about cryptos yet. So anyways, he's telling me about this dream, and he's like, yeah, God wanted me to contact you to tell you about this other investment. And I'm like, oh, you're the guy that's going to tell me about Reddcoin. Sure enough, he was the guy. It wasn't coincidence. I knew that. And it was just so cool how God worked all of that. So this guy was able to help me learn how to get into cryptos, learn a bunch of the information I'd need to know. And that's one of the reasons I believe Reddcoin is an investment, especially after the RV that I'm going to be in, because there are no such things as coincidence. So I wanted to share this so you guys understand why I keep talking about Reddcoin. Please feel free to share this video. Thank you guys for watching. Bless you. Have a good day.